I don't have friends at work, I have audit logs. Friends lie to you about your haircut. Audit logs tell you exactly who was in the building at 3:04 a.m. and why they tried to export 4 terabytes of data to a server in a non-extradition country. That's my love language. I'm Teresa, the Senior Cyber Compliance Officer for Foresight Analytics. If that title sounds boring to you, congratulations, you have a healthy social life. The people who matter, the Department of Defense, the NSA, and the grim-faced auditors who decide if this company lives or dies, I am the Gandalf of you shall not pass. I've spent 20 years in federal contracting, and I've learned one universal truth. The biggest threat to national security isn't a hacker in a hoodie in a basement in St. Petersburg. It's a C-suite executive who thinks password 123 is easy to remember. It was a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday that feels like it's been dipped in gray paint and left to dry. I was 3 hours into a level 5 log review. Most people think cybersecurity is like the movies, green code cascading down a screen, techno music pumping. In reality, it's me, a lukewarm cup of Earl Grey, and a spreadsheet that spans 3 monitors. I was looking for anomalies in the compartmentalization protocols. Foresight Analytics handles operational forecasting for the military. We predict supply chain failures for tanks, we model troop movements based on weather patterns, and we house data that, if leaked, gets people killed. That's not hyperbole. That's the job. I was scrolling through the access requests for server node 7, an air-gapped beast that houses the if World War Roman III starts, read this datasets when I saw it. A jagged little line in the smooth hum of the data stream. Someone had pinged the gateway. Now, before I tell you what I found, I have to ask, do you guys like reading about corporate hubris getting smacked down by federal law? Because I live for it. If you enjoy listening entitled executives walk into a woodchipper of their own making, hit subscribe and maybe drop a like. It motivates the team, and honestly, it's cheaper than therapy for me. Okay, back to the crime scene. The ping came from an internal development account, devadmin04, that in itself was a red flag the size of a communist parade. We don't use generic admin accounts. Everything at Foresight is biometrically linked to a specific human being with a specific clearance level. devadmin04 was a ghost key, a relic from the system setup phase that should have been incinerated 5 years ago. Seeing it active was like coming home to find a stranger wearing your pajamas and eating your cereal. I didn't panic. Panic is for people who don't have tenure. I picked up the phone, a heavy encrypted VO IP line that looks like it belongs in a submarine, and dialed the IT director, Rick. Rick is a good guy, but he has the backbone of a chocolate eclair when management walks in. Rick, I said, skipping the pleasantries. Why is DevAdmin 4 active? And why is it trying to handshake with the air-gapped drive? Silence on the other end. Not that I'm looking into it silence. That I am currently soiling my ergonomic chair silence. Teresa, Rick's voice was a whisper. I didn't do it. The ticket came from upstairs. Like penthouse upstairs. Rick, I said, my voice dropping an octave into what my ex-husband used to call the Teresa tone. I don't care if the ticket came from the ghost of George Washington. That account is not cleared for TS/PSI data. Who is using it? He hesitated. It's Noah. I closed my eyes and pinched the bridge of my nose hard enough to leave a mark. Noah, the CEO's 27-year-old son, the chief innovation strategist. A kid whose resume consists of 2 failed crypto startups and a bachelor's degree in entrepreneurial spirit from a university that sounds like a salad dressing brand. Noah had been prowling around the office for months, talking about disrupting the paradigm and leveraging AI synergies. I mostly ignored him, the way you ignore a fly buzzing against a window pane. But now the fly had a sledgehammer. Noah doesn't have clearance, Rick, I said, typing furiously on my secondary keyboard to lock down the perimeter. Noah can barely clear his browser history. Why does he have a root access key? His dad, Rick said, sounding miserable. CEO walked in here yesterday. He said Noah needs unfettered access to build his pitch deck for the Pentagon meeting. He said the security protocols were stifling his creativity. He ordered me to reactivate the ghost key. I felt a cold prickle at the base of my neck. It wasn't fear of Noah. It was the realization of the blast radius. Rick, listen to me very carefully. Did you log that order? I wrote it on a sticky note. Jesus Christ, Rick. I hung up. I stared at my screens. The devadmin04 account was still probing the firewall, like a drunk teenager trying to pick a lock. This wasn't just a policy violation. This was a violation of the International Traffic in Arms Regulations ITAR. This was a breach of our contract with the NSA. If Noah managed to pull data out of that drive and put it on an unsecured laptop, or God forbid, the cloud, Foresight Analytics wouldn't just lose a contract. We would cease to exist. People would go to federal prison. I watched the screen. The probe stopped. Then a new message flashed in the log, access granted, override authorized. My stomach dropped. The CEO hadn't just bullied Rick. He had used his own executive credentials to bypass the failsafe. They were inside. Noah was inside the operational forecasting server. I didn't storm into the CEO's office. I didn't scream. I didn't run down the hallway waving a handbook. That's amateur hour. Instead, I opened a secure terminal that runs on a completely separate network from the corporate LAN. I inserted my personal smart card and typed in a 64-character encryption key. I began to type a report, not to HR, not to the board, but to the Compliance Anomaly Intake Server at the National Security Agency. Title: Unauthorized Access to Compartmented Dataset Priority 1. I was about to light a match and I was sitting on a mountain of dynamite, but I wasn't the one who poured the gasoline. That was Noah. I was just the one holding the rulebook. And in my world, the rulebook hits harder than a brick. The next morning, the office buzzed with that manic, artificial energy that usually precedes a disaster or a round of layoffs. In this case, it was the all-hands vision meeting. The email invite had come with a gif of a rocket ship taking off. I hate gifs in work emails. They are the digital equivalent of a nervous laugh. We gathered in the main atrium, a glass and steel cathedral dedicated to the worship of government contracts. The CEO, Marcus, stood on a raised platform, wearing a suit that cost more than my first car. He looked like a silver-haired hawk who had just eaten a particularly satisfying field mouse. Standing next to him was Noah. Noah looked like he had been generated by an AI prompted with arrogant tech bro who thinks he's Steve Jobs but is actually just a liability. He was wearing Common Project sneakers, skinny jeans, and a t-shirt that said Disrupt. He was holding a tablet like it was the Ten Commandments. Team, Marcus boomed, his voice echoing off the glass walls. For too long, Foresight has been reactive. We've been safe. We've been compliant. He said the word compliant like it was a synonym for impotent. I felt a few heads turn toward me. I kept my face blank, a mask of polite disinterest. But the future isn't safe. The future is bold, and my son Noah is going to lead us there. Noah stepped up to the microphone. He adjusted his glasses, which I'm 90% sure were non-prescription frames he bought to look smarter. Thanks, Dad, I mean Marcus, Noah chuckled. The sycophants in the front row laughed. Look, I've been digging into our systems for the last 24 hours, and honestly, I'm shocked. We have data silos everywhere. We have air gaps that belong in the Stone Age. Information wants to be free, guys. Information wants to move. I physically flinched. Information wants to be free is a great slogan for a hacker manifesto. It is a terrible slogan for a company holding classified troop deployment schedules. I'm announcing the new AI initiative, Noah continued, pacing the stage. I've pulled the raw datasets from the forecasting servers, yes, the scary ones, and I'm feeding them into a new cloud-based learning model. We're going to generate real-time insights for the Pentagon that will blow their minds. The room went quiet. Engineers looked at their shoes. The project managers looked at me. Noah had just admitted in front of 200 people that he had extracted classified data and uploaded it to a cloud server. A cloud server. Probably an AWS instance he set up with his personal credit card. Now Noah smirked, locking eyes with me. I know some of the old guard here love their firewalls. I know our compliance officer, Teresa. Where are you, Teresa? Ah, there she is. As Firewall herself, he pointed. The room turned. I didn't blink. I stood with my arms crossed, radiating the energy of a disappointed librarian. Teresa thinks security means locking things in a box, Noah said, his voice dripping with condescension. But I think security means speed. If we're faster than the enemy, we don't need walls. So, effective immediately, I'm overriding the legacy access protocols. The innovation team gets root access to everything. No more tickets, no more waiting for Miss Firewall to stamp a form. Marcus clapped. That's the spirit. Let's get to work. The meeting dispersed. People avoided eye contact with me as they shuffled back to their desks. They knew a corpse when they saw one, and they assumed it was me. I walked back to my office, my heels clicking a steady, rhythmic countdown on the tile floor. I sat down, unlocked my workstation, and immediately pulled the secondary audit logs. Noah wasn't lying. He had done exactly what he said. At 4:15 a.m., the DEV-admin04 account had executed a mass export command, select from Tactical Ops DB. He had pulled the raw binary files. Then, the logs showed an upload stream to an external IP address. I traced the IP. It wasn't a secure government cloud. It wasn't even a corporate VPN. It was a generic, public-facing server hosted by a third-party AI startup called NeuroLinkX. My hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from the sheer magnitude of the stupidity. He had uploaded top-secret/sensitive compartmented information, TS/SCI, to a startup that probably had a password of admin and a security team consisting of one guy named Chad. I took a screenshot. I exported the packet capture. I saved the video file of the all-hands meeting from the internal server. Then, I opened my secure channel to the NSA again. My contact, there's a man named Director Vance. We've never met for coffee, but we have a very intimate relationship based on the mutual understanding that people are idiots. I typed, update to previous report. Subject has admitted to data exfiltration in public forum. Data is now hosted on unsecured third-party public cloud. Video evidence attached. I hit enter. The screen blinked, report received. Monitoring initiated. Do not intervene, do not intervene. That was the hardest part. Noah was running around the office high-fiving people, thinking he was Elon Musk. He had no idea that a digital sniper scope was currently centering on his forehead. I had to sit there and let him brag. I had to let the poison spread just enough so that when the antidote arrived, it would kill the patient. I took a sip of my cold tea. It tasted like battery acid. I loved it. 2 hours later, my desk phone rang. It was the internal extension for human resources. The caller ID said Linda, VP of People. Linda was the kind of HR executive who decorated her office with live, laugh, love signs, but would fire a pregnant woman for taking too many bathroom breaks. Teresa, her voice was sugary sweet, the auditory equivalent of high fructose corn syrup. You pop down to my office for a quick sec? Bring your badge, the universal code for your dead. I knew this was coming. In fact, I had been counting the minutes. I picked up my purse. I didn't pack a box. I didn't take my stapler. I wanted my desk to look exactly as it was, a crime scene of interrupted work. I walked down the hallway, past the rows of developers who were now frantically trying to integrate Noah's new AI into their stable code. They looked stressed. They knew something was wrong, but they had mortgages to pay. I entered Linda's office. Marcus, the CEO, was there too, leaning against the window, looking out at the parking lot like he was pondering the burden of his own genius. Noah sat in the guest chair, scrolling on his phone, looking bored. Have a seat, Teresa, Linda said, gesturing to the empty chair. I sat. I kept my posture perfect. Spine straight, hands folded in my lap. Teresa. Marcus started, not even turning around. We've been discussing the company's culture, the direction we're heading, and I asked. He turned, then his eyes cold. And we feel that you are no longer a cultural fit. Your behavior at the meeting today, the rolling of the eyes, the negative body language, it was noted by everyone. It undermines leadership. I didn't say a word at the meeting, Marcus, I said calmly. That's the problem, Noah piped up, dropping his phone onto the desk. You're always looming. You're like a dark cloud, Teresa. I'm trying to innovate and you're just there, radiating no, it's bad vibes, we need a yes culture. I looked at Noah. Noah, you uploaded classified military data to a public server. That's not a vibe, that's a felony. Marcus slammed his hand on the desk. Enough, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You are obsessed with obstacles. Noah is a visionary. You are a relic. You're paranoid, Teresa. Maybe if you spent less time policing my son and more time understanding his vision, you'd see that. So, I'm being fired for upholding the compliance standards outlined in our federal contract? I asked, wanting him to say it. I needed the words. You're being let go for insubordination and creating a hostile work environment, Linda interjected smoothly, sliding a piece of paper across the desk. This is a separation agreement. We're offering you 2 weeks severance if you sign a non-disparagement clause. I looked at the paper. It was a joke. 2 weeks for 20 years of keeping their asses out of jail. I won't be signing that, I said. Marcus laughed. Suit yourself. You leave with nothing then? Hand over your badge. I stood up. I reached into my purse and pulled out my ID card, the hard plastic rectangle that had given me access to the most secure rooms in the country. I placed it gently on Linda's desk. You're making a mistake, Marcus, I said. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact, like saying it's raining. The only mistake I made was not firing you sooner, he sneered. Get out. Security will escort you to your car. The walk to the lobby was long. A security guard named Dave, who I had bought donuts for every Friday for 10 years, walked behind me, looking at his feet. He was ashamed. I wasn't. When the glass doors slid shut behind me, the humid Virginia air hit my face. I walked to my sedan, unlocked the door, and sat in the driver's seat. The silence was absolute. I pulled out my personal phone. I had one unread message on the secure app received 3 minutes ago. It was from Director Vance. Status, terminated. I typed back, yes, badge surrendered, access revoked. The reply came instantly. Acknowledged, you are now a protected witness. Go home. Stay off the grid. We are moving assets into position. I started the car. As I pulled out of the parking lot, I looked up at the 4th floor. I could see Noah in the window of the corner office, my old office, or maybe Marcus's, it didn't matter. He was gesturing wildly, probably explaining to someone how he was going to revolutionize warfare with an algorithm he didn't understand. He thought he had won. He thought he had cut out the cancer. He didn't realize that I wasn't the cancer. I was the immune system, and he had just suppressed the only thing keeping the infection from killing the host. I drove home, put on some classical music, and waited for the world to end. My house is quiet. It's a purposeful quiet. No TV blaring, no kids screaming. My daughter is in grad school in Boston, studying something safe like art history. I like it this way. That afternoon, I sat in my kitchen, watching the steam rise from a fresh cup of tea. It was 2:00 p.m. I should have been in a budget meeting. Instead, I was unemployed, but not really. At 2:15 p.m., my personal laptop, a secured ThinkPad that never connects to public Wi-Fi, pinged. It wasn't an email. It was a direct video link request. The encryption protocol was heavy. It took the system 30 seconds just to handshake. The screen flickered to life. Director Vance was sitting in a room that looked like the inside of a bunker. He was a man who looked like he had been carved out of gray granite. He didn't smile. He didn't do small talk. Miss Langley, he said, His voice sounded like gravel crunching under tires. Director, I nodded. We have full mirroring on Foresight servers, Vance said. We tapped the line the moment you sent the first anomaly report. We've been watching your boy Noah for 6 hours. He's not my boy. I corrected. He's a threat vector, Vance agreed. He's currently trying to integrate the tactical database with a chat GPT API key. He thinks he's building a warbot. He's actually feeding classified troop locations into a public language model. I closed my eyes. It was worse than I thought. You need to shut it down, Director. If that data propagates, we have containment, Vance cut in. We've sandboxed his connection. He thinks he's on the open web. He's in a simulation loop we control. He's feeding data to us, not the public, but he doesn't know that. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Okay, so what now? Now we let him hang himself, Vance said. Tomorrow is the board meeting, correct? The one where they pitch this innovation to the Pentagon liaisons? Yes, noon. They're expecting General Holloway. Good, General Holloway is coming, and so am I. Vance leaned forward. Technically, Miss Langley, you are a civilian. But as of this moment, I am activating you under Title 50 authority as a specialized consultant. You are reinstated, not by Foresight, but by the United States government. What do you need me to do? Nothing, Vance said. That's the hardest part for people like you, Teresa. You want to fix it. You want to patch the hole. I need you to let the hole rot. I need you to come to the building tomorrow at 11:45 a.m. Park across the street. Wait for my signal. They took my badge, I reminded him. You won't need a badge where you're going, Vance said. We're going to clean house, Teresa, and I want you there to witness the audit. The screen went black. I sat there for a long time. The house was still quiet, but the air felt different, charged. I thought about Marcus. I thought about his smug face when he fired me. He had called me paranoid. He had called me a relic. He had no idea that while he was playing checkers with his son's career, the NSA was playing 4D chess with his life. I spent the rest of the evening doing laundry. There is something deeply satisfying about folding clothes while you know that a federal strike team is assembling to destroy your enemies. I ironed a blouse for tomorrow. A nice one. Silk, deep navy blue, a power color. I slept like a baby. The kind of sleep you only get when you know the rules are finally going to work. The next morning, I parked my sedan in the overflow lot across the street from Foresight Analytics. It was 11:30 a.m. I had my tablet propped up on the passenger seat. Vance hadn't been joking about the access. He had sent me a link to a compliance view, a live feed from the security cameras inside the executive boardroom. Looked like a wedding reception for a particularly tacky couple. There were catered platters of expensive pastries. There was a dedicated barista station. The table, usually bare mahogany, was draped in a tablecloth that looked like silk. Marcus was pacing, checking his watch. He looked nervous but excited. He was rehearsing his opening lines to an empty chair. General, what we have here is a paradigm shift? No, a quantum leap in defense analytics. Noah was there too. He was wearing a hoodie under a blazer, a look that says I'm too rich to care about dress codes. He was hooking his laptop up to the massive 85-inch presentation screen. Dad, the latency is practically zero, Noah said, his voice tinny through the surveillance mic. The bot is responding instantly. I asked it to predict a supply chain disruption in the South China Sea, and it gave me a scenario in 3 seconds. Do you know how long Teresa's team took to model that? Weeks. Teresa is the past, Marcus said, straightening his tie. You are the future, son. Today we secure the contract that buys us the island. The island? Noah laughed. I'm looking at property in the Caribbean, a tax haven. Once the Pentagon signs this deal, our stock is going to triple. I watched them from my car, sipping lukewarm coffee. It was fascinating. They were talking about tax havens while committing espionage. It was like watching someone plan a vacation while they were actively robbing a bank. The feed switched views. I could see the lobby. General Holloway walked in. He was a terrifying man in full dress greens, chest heavy with ribbons. Flanking him were 2 aides carrying briefcases, but behind them was the real show. 2 black SUVs pulled up to the curb, blocking the CEO-only parking spots. 4 men got out. They weren't wearing uniforms. They were wearing ill-fitting Navy suits that screamed federal agent. Director Vance was in the lead. He walked into the lobby. The receptionist, a sweet girl named Sarah, looked up and smiled. Can I help you, sir? Vance didn't stop. He flashed a badge that I couldn't see clearly on the camera, but I saw Sarah's face go pale. She didn't reach for the phone. She just backed away from the desk. Vance and his team moved toward the elevators. They moved with a fluid, predatory grace. They didn't look at the art on the walls. They didn't look at the awards in the display case. They were sharks swimming through a coral reef. Back in the boardroom, Noah was high-fiving Marcus. It's showtime, Dad. Let's get this bread. Get this bread, I whispered to myself in the car. God, I hate him. My phone buzzed. It was Vance. Text, move in, lobby is secure, come up. I stepped out of the car. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. It was a beautiful day for an execution. I walked across the street, my heels clicking on the asphalt. I didn't rush. I wanted to savor the anticipation. I entered the lobby. Sarah was standing by the desk, looking terrified. When she saw me, her eyes widened. Teresa, she whispered, I thought you were fired. Who are those men? They locked the elevators. It's okay, Sarah, I said, my voice calm. They're with me. Can you override the elevator lock for me? I don't think I should. Sarah, I said gently. Do you trust me? She looked at the men in the suit standing by the elevator bank. One of them had stayed behind to secure the exit. She looked at me. Yes, she swiped her MasterCard. The elevator doors opened. Thank you, I said. You might want to take an early lunch. Go to that place across town. Take your time. I stepped into the elevator and pressed the button for the top floor. The ride up was silent. I watched the numbers tick up. 1, 2, 3, 4. The doors opened. The hallway was empty. The sound of voices drifted from the open doors of the boardroom. And here, Noah's voice boomed, is the interface. I walked down the hall. I stood just outside the door frame in the shadows. I wanted to hear the pitch. I wanted to hear the lie before the truth kicked the door down. Gentlemen, Noah was saying, gesturing to the screen where a sleek, dark mode dashboard was displayed. What you're seeing is the Foresight AI Nexus. Doesn't just read data, it understands it. It scrapes every secure database we have, logistics, personnel, satellite telemetry, and synthesizes it into actionable intelligence. General Holloway sat at the head of the table, his face unreadable. He wasn't looking at the screen. He was looking at Noah with the expression one might reserve for a toddler playing with a loaded gun. For example, Noah continued, typing on his keyboard. If I ask it for the vulnerability assessment of the Eastern Grid, boom, there it is. A map populated on the screen. Red dots appeared over power stations. Impressive, one of the general's aides said, though his tone was flat. And this is running on your internal secure servers? Better, Noah grinned. It's running on a distributed hybrid cloud. Maximum speed, infinite scalability. Hybrid cloud, the general repeated. Meaning, connected to the internet? Yes, Noah beamed. That's the beauty of it. We've broken the silo. Suddenly, the screen flickered. The map of the Eastern Grid froze, then it pixelated. Then a giant red box appeared in the center of the screen. Connection terminated. Remote host unreachable. Noah tapped the keys. 1 sec, Wi-Fi glitch. The building internet has been spotty lately. He tried to refresh. Nothing. That's weird, Marcus said, stepping in to cover the awkward silence. Technical gremlins. The curse of the live demo. Right, General? General Holloway didn't laugh. He slowly closed the folder in front of him. At that moment, every phone in the room buzzed simultaneously. Not a ringtone, a harsh emergency alert tone. Then silence. The signal bars on everyone's phones dropped to 0. What is going on? Marcus asked, pulling out his phone. I have no service. The VPN is down, Noah said, panic creeping into his voice. The whole network just vanished. I can't even ping the router. That a voice came from the doorway is because we cut the hard line. The room froze. Director Vance stepped into the light. He wasn't smiling. He was holding a folio in one hand and his badge in the other. He tossed the badge onto the mahogany table. It slid across the silk tablecloth and stopped directly in front of Marcus. The metallic thud was the loudest sound in the world. Who the hell are you? Marcus demanded, his face flushing red. How did you get in here? This is a private meeting. I am Director Vance of the National Security Agency, Vance said calmly. And this is no longer a private meeting. It is a crime scene. 2 agents stepped in behind Vance. They moved to the windows, blocking the view. They were imposing, silent, and terrifyingly professional. NSA, Noah laughed nervously. Is this part of the stress test? Did Teresa put you up to this? Because it's not funny. Noah, Marcus hissed. Up, your son asked a question, Vance said, turning his gaze to Noah. No, this is not a stress test. A stress test implies you have a chance of passing. This is a containment breach protocol. Vance looked at the general, General Holloway. My apologies for the interruption. We needed to confirm the active uplink before we severed the connection. Understood, Director, the general said, standing up. Did he really put the grid data on a public server? He did, Vance confirmed. God, Holloway muttered. He looked at Marcus with pure disgust. You people are insane. Now wait a minute, Marcus sputtered. We are a trusted partner. We have protocols. You had protocols, Vance corrected. And then you fired the person who enforced them. Vance turned toward the door. Miss Langley? I stepped into the room. The look on Marcus's face was worth every unpaid overtime hour I had ever worked. His jaw literally dropped. His eyes darted from me to Vance and back. Teresa? He whispered. Hello, Marcus, I said. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smirk. I just stood there wearing my navy blue blouse, looking like the personification of I told you so. She's the one who sabotaged the network, Noah shouted, pointing a shaking finger at me. She's bitter, she hacked us. Sit down, son, one of the agents barked. It wasn't a request, Noah sat. Miss Langley didn't hack you, Vance said. Opening the folio, she reported you, as she was legally required to do. And because she did, we were able to intercept your little innovation before it reached the Chinese servers that were actively scraping your secure cloud. Chinese servers? Noah squeaked. You used a third-party host, Noah, I said, walking to the table. Did you read their terms of service? Or did you just click agree? Because their servers are mirrored in Shanghai. You just handed the entire operational forecast to a foreign intelligence agency. But it was encrypted, Noah whispered. With what? I asked. A standard 256-bit key? They have quantum decryptors, Noah. It would have taken them about 4 minutes to crack it. Luckily, Vance interjected. Miss Langley alerted us yesterday. We redirected your DNS. Your data never went to Shanghai. It went to a dummy server in Utah. We caught it all. The silence in the room was heavy. It was the silence of a grave. Marcus slumped into his chair. The fight was draining out of him, replaced by the dawning realization of liability. Okay, he said, his voice trembling. Okay, so no harm done, right? We caught it. A mistake was made. We can fix this. We'll wipe the servers. We'll fire Noah. Hey, Noah yelped. It's too late for that, Marcus, Vance said. He pulled a remote from his pocket and pointed it at the screen. The frozen map disappeared, replaced by the security footage from the previous day. It was the all-hands meeting. We watched Noah on the big screen, strutting around the stage. Audio Noah, if we're faster than the enemy, we don't need walls. So effective immediately, I'm overriding the legacy access protocols. Vance paused the video. Admitting to intent, he noted. He clicked next. A log file appeared. It showed the CEO's credentials authorizing the override. And here, Vance said, looking at Marcus, is the facilitator. You used your executive privilege to bypass a federal safety stop. That makes you an accessory to the distribution of classified material. I didn't know what he was going to do with it, Marcus pleaded. I'm not a tech guy. I just wanted to empower my team. Ignorance is not a defense when you sign a contract stating you understand the penalties of negligence, General Holloway said. He sounded tired. Marcus, you know what the penalty is for mishandling TS/PSI data? We can pay a fine, Marcus said quickly. Foresight has insurance. We can settle this. I couldn't help it. I laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. This isn't a parking ticket, Marcus, I said. You don't pay a fine. You go to Leavenworth. Teresa, please. Marcus looked at me, his eyes wet. You know me. We built this company. Help me explain this to them. Tell them it was just an error in judgment. I looked at him. I remembered the way he looked at the parking lot while Linda fired me. I remembered him calling me a relic. I did tell them, I said softly. I told them in my first report. I told them in my second report. And I tried to tell you in this very room yesterday. You told me I was creating a hostile work environment. You fired the whistleblower, Vance stated. Which, by the way, is another federal crime. Whistleblower Protection Act. You added a felony to your treason. Treason? Noah whispered. Wait, treason is? That's for spies. I'm an entrepreneur. You're a leak, Vance said, and we plug leaks. Vance turned to the general. We have enough for the immediate suspension of the contract. The DOJ creates the indictment from here. Indictment? Marcus stood up. Now hold on. You can't just walk in here and sit down. The agent by the window moved. He didn't draw a weapon, but the way he shifted his weight made it clear that violence was an option he was comfortable with. Marcus sat. Here's what happens next, Vance said, pacing the room. Foresight Analytics is now under federal receivership. All assets are frozen. All servers are seized. The building is currently being swept, but the board, Marcus stammered, the investors, the board is being notified as we speak, Vance said. I imagine your stock price is currently doing a very convincing impression of a stone dropped in a well. I looked at Noah. He was crying, not a stoic, single tear. He was sobbing into his hands. I just wanted to make a bot, he blubbered. I just wanted to make a cool bot. It was pathetic. It was tragic. And it was entirely avoidable if they had just listened to the woman with the tea and the spreadsheet. Miss Langley, Vance turned to me. Do you have the audit trail for the physical backups? Yes, Director, I said. I secured the hard drives in the Level 4 safe before I was escorted out yesterday. Noah didn't know the combination, so he couldn't corrupt the originals. Good, Vance nodded. That saves us a week of forensics. He looked at Marcus. You fired the only competent person in this building. If she hadn't secured those backups, you wouldn't just be going to prison. You'd be going to a black site because we wouldn't be able to prove you didn't sell the data. Marcus looked at me. There was no arrogance left, just fear and regret. Teresa, he whispered. I didn't answer. I just checked my watch. 12:15 p.m., lunchtime. The door to the boardroom burst open again. This time, it wasn't federal agents. It was the chairman of the board, Mr. Henderson. He was a man in his 70s who smelled like old money and cigars. He looked like he was having a cardiac event. Marcus, Henderson roared. What is the meaning of this? I have the SEC on line 1 and the Department of Defense on line 2. Our stock is halted. He stopped when he saw the general and the agents. General Holloway, Henderson's tone shifted instantly to obsequious panic. I assure you, the board had no knowledge. Save it, Henderson, Holloway said. Your CEO and his son just tried to open source our troop movements. Henderson turned on Marcus. You did what? It was a misunderstanding, Marcus cried. He bypassed the protocols, Vance interrupted. He authorized an override of the safety systems to let his unqualified son play with matches in a fireworks factory. Henderson looked at Noah, who was still sniffling. Then he looked at Marcus. You're fired, Henderson said, for cause, effective immediately. No severance. No stock options. We are clawing back everything. You can't do that, Marcus shouted. I just did. And frankly, if these gentlemen don't arrest you, I might kill you myself for what you've done to my portfolio. Henderson looked around the room frantic. How do we fix this, General, please? Foresight employs 2,000 people. If you cancel the contract, we fold. The contract is suspended, Holloway said. Pending a full security audit. We can't pass an audit. Henderson cried, our compliance officer is gone. Actually, Vance said, gesturing to me, she's right here. Henderson looked at me. He looked confused for a second, then recognition dawned. Teresa, right? The one with the rigid reports. The one who saved your company's existence, Vance corrected. Miss Langley detected the breach, reported it through proper channels, secured the physical backups, and prevented the data from leaving the country. She's the only reason you aren't being classified as a hostile entity right now. Henderson looked at me like I was the second coming of Christ. Teresa, I didn't know. You didn't ask, I said. We need you back, Henderson said, stepping over Noah's legs to get to me. Name your price, double salary, triple, stock, whatever you want. Just tell the general we're compliant. I looked at Vance. He gave me a barely perceptible nod. I have conditions, I said. Anything. Henderson promised. First, I pointed at Marcus and Noah. They leave now, and they never set foot in this building again. Done, Henderson said. Second, I said, I report directly to the board. No CEO oversight on security matters. If I say a server stays locked, it stays locked. If the Pope wants access and I say no, the answer is no. Agreed, Henderson said. You have absolute autonomy. Third, I said, I want Rick from IT to get a raise. I tried to stop them. Done, Henderson said. I turned to General Holloway. General, if the leadership is removed and the original protocols are restored, can we maintain the contract? Holloway looked at me. He respected chain of command. He respected competence. If you are the one signing the compliance forms, Teresa, then yes. We will proceed on a probationary basis. Thank you, General, I said. I looked down at Marcus. He was slumped in his chair, staring at the table. He had lost his company, his reputation, and his freedom, all because he thought he was smarter than the rules. Marcus, I said. He looked up. You were right about one thing, I said. I am a firewall, and you just burned yourself trying to cross me. Gentleman, Vance said to his agents, please escort the suspects to the vehicles. Suspects? Noah squeaked as an agent hauled him out of the chair. Am I being arrested? You're being detained for questioning regarding violations of the Espionage Act, the agent said. Hands behind your back. Noah started crying again. Dad, do something? Marcus stood up. He looked old. The silver hawk was gone. He was just a tired man in an expensive suit that didn't fit anymore. He looked at Henderson, but Henderson turned his back. He looked at the general, but the general was reading a file. He looked at me. I'm sorry, Marcus said. I know, I said. It's not in the log. The agents led them out. I watched them go. Noah was stumbling, his common project sneakers squeaking on the floor. Marcus walked with his head down. They passed Sarah at the reception desk. She didn't look up. The elevator doors closed. They were gone. The room was quiet again. The Foresight AI Nexus screen was still black. The silk tablecloth was wrinkled. Well, General Holloway said, putting on his cap. That was efficient. We try, Vance said. Picked up his badge. Miss Langley, I assume you can handle the cleanup from here? Yes, Director, I said. I'll initiate the server wipe and restore from the clean backups. We'll be operational by 0800 tomorrow. Good, Vance said. He walked to the door, then stopped. Teresa, yes, nice work on the backups. That was intuitive. It was standard procedure, sir, I said. Right, Vance said, the corner of his mouth twitching up in almost smile. Standard procedure. He left, the general and his aides followed. Henderson shook my hand, his palm sweaty, and promised to have the new contract sent over within the hour. Then he ran off to call the SEC. I was alone in the boardroom. I walked over to the window. I looked down at the street. I saw the black SUVs pulling away. I saw Marcus and Noah in the back of the second one. They were heading to a federal holding facility. They would have lawyers and trials. Maybe they'd get lucky and only do a few years in a minimum security camp. But they were done. Their names were mud. I turned back to the room. I walked over to the presentation table. I unplugged Noah's laptop. I picked up the HDMI cable he had used. I coiled it neatly, securing it with a Velcro strap. I walked out of the boardroom, down the hall, and took the elevator back to my floor. My badge still didn't work. I had left it on Linda's desk. Rick was there. He saw me coming. He ran over and opened the door. Teresa, he said, looking like he'd seen a ghost. Is it true? Are they gone? They're gone, Rick, I said. Reactivate my credentials. On it, he said. And thanks, don't thank me, I said. Just don't ever use a ghost key again. Never, he promised. I walked into my office. It was exactly as I had left it. My stapler was there. My monitor stands were there. The air smelled of ozone and carpet cleaner. I sat down in my chair. It creaked familiarly. I logged into my workstation. User, T. Langley, access level, administrator unrestricted. I opened the log file for DEVadmin04. I typed, account disabled, permanently. Then I went to the break room, boiled some water, and made a fresh cup of Earl Grey. I took a sip. It was hot, bitter, and perfect. I opened a new spreadsheet. I had work to do. Real power doesn't announce itself. It simply operates. Teresa let her meticulous adherence to protocol speak volumes. It's a stark reminder that arrogance and unchecked privilege often precede a very public fall, especially when the stakes are so incredibly high. True authority is earned, not inherited. Appreciate you all for sticking through this one. See you in the next story.